Each episode, I'm gonna try and ask each guest the same 6 questions, and so why don't we just start off with the first one?
Sure.
All right. Eric, what is important?
Well, to me, I think connection with other people is important. Otherwise, you can really lose your sense of self and kind of lose meaning in life. I think it's important to have a purpose behind what you do a lot of times to feel fulfilled. And a lot of that relies upon connection with other people or other creatures and with yourself.
Yeah. I think it's hard to be anything without first having a sense of self, but we try. Anything else that's important?
Well, yeah, that's a big question. I think the Earth is important. The planet we live on. Taking care of it. Without that, we wouldn't have our life here. And then just being kind to other people, I think, is also important. When you start to lose center, I think it helps you kind of stay grounded if you act in kindness towards yourself and to others. Because we can kind of get, again, lost in our thoughts. And I often focus so much on other people, and I forget that I also need to thank myself and be kind to myself.
What is important?
It's a pretty good question. Well, kind of, I guess. With questions like that, I feel you can spin that any way you want, based on what's important to you. Like if I'm some guy where my whole thing is like, religion or family is important, I could just like talk about that. Or if I'm some guy where I have like some other like strong opinion about something, I could like spin that into that. I guess like important, it's to the individual. All right, like to me, I think what's important is like, like working hard and like sort of like trying to apply yourself and this and that, and like, be good to your family and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess do you mean to the individual or in general?
I don't know, man.
All right.
So Jules, what is important?
What is important in life?
Just open-ended.
Open-ended. Okay. It's a very broad question. I watched your other episodes to prepare, but I didn't think of my own response for this question. But what's important? I think a lot of things are important. I think it's important to laugh. Like, no one should take anything too seriously. I feel like in a lot of parts of life, there are obviously things that are very serious and aren't a laughing matter, but I feel like in general, if people like lightened up a bit and laughed more, that's important, I think. It's important to be nice to people. Try to have an open mind about things. Like, that goes for like work and friends and family and everything. I guess those things are important. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
BWAP, what is important?
What is important? On any scale I can think of, like to me, to humanity, to...
Pretty open-ended.
Okay, super. What is important? I think... I think what is important is just, I don't know, on a personal level, what is important to me and what I hope is also important to most humans, at least, is to live a happy life without hurting other people. I think just finding ways to get through it all is important. But on maybe a more philosophical scale, I would imagine that really nothing is important, because importance is based on value that each individual assigns, right? So what's important to me is not necessarily what's important to you, what's not necessarily important on a larger scale. Yeah.
Well, cool. What would you say is the easiest way to find happiness?
Oh, I don't think there's an easy way. Not to say that I think you can only be happy if you struggle to find that happiness, but no one is born happy, right? So, and I do think that sometimes, maybe not even sometimes, most of the time, the people who are afforded more opportunities are the ones who are able to find happiness more easily, right? So, like I find happiness in exercises like I like pole dancing, but that's really expensive, and not everyone can afford to even try it out necessarily, or not everyone has a studio that's accessible to them. Not everyone has the time to devote to things they like to do, things like that, right? So I don't think there is an easy way to find happiness. I think it also looks different to different people. So I mean, there are things that give me happiness, or activities or experiences, but I think it's also a personal journey that you have to go through, because I was not how do I put this? I was not happy as a child, because there were a lot of things in my life that weren't the way I wanted them to be, I guess. And it took me a long time to kind of understand that that things don't have to be a certain way for you to be happy. So I think there are not only external things that can bring happiness, but I think you also kind of have to find a way to happiness internally, if that makes sense. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, inner peace and outer peace.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So, Evan 4, what is important?
It's a good question. I guess, like, broad strokes, I don't think anything is necessarily inherently important. But I think if you lived like that, it would like drive you crazy, or at least it would drive me crazy personally. So like I have like self imposed sort of like maybe agreed upon delusions of things that are important, I guess. And for me, that is there's like, I guess, a few categories of things that I think are important. And more recently that's changed a little bit, but one thing that I think is pretty important is just like making sort of social connections and talking to other people, getting outside of your head a little bit is something that's important for me, because it's pretty easy to get wrapped up in your own stuff, and it's good to have people to bounce stuff off of.
The more you hold that in, the less it feels like real language, and the more it's just words bouncing around.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
I often, like, when I say something out loud, it just changes the way I was thinking about it, just vocalizing it, you know? um, yeah, exactly. So that's one thing that's important to me. And then I also think just like the process of like observation and like just looking at stuff that's out there in the world is something that I find pretty important. Nature or otherwise, I guess.
Natalia, what is important?
Love,
Love. Anything else?
virtue, hygiene,
Yeah.
working out, candles. These Moroccan lamps I got on Amazon. They create an ambiance, and you can take them from room to room.
Ooh.
They're completely metal, and so they don't break if you knock them over, and they come with a light bulb, and they're $37 for a set of 2 of them. And so any room you make, you can make it a place you want to be in.
Are they, this is product placement, but,
Sharing objects that you find on the internet with people is important.
yes. What is important?
Man, what a question. I think a lot of things are important. I think companionship is important. I think art is important. I think creative ways to enjoy your leisure time is important. Hobbies. I am a person who takes great joy in my silly little overly complicated hobbies.
What are a few of those?
Well, let's see. I mean, we talked about the music stuff. You and I have been in bands throughout the years. All kinds of stuff. Covers, original music at times. Other hobbies, I'm into building like mechanical keyboards. So I have like 3 or 4 of these. They're made of like solid aluminum. It's a rabbit hole that I think it's cool to fall down for a little bit. But I would only recommend somebody have one keyboard. I don't think it's a great hobby to live in. The same with like vinyl. I collect vinyl, particularly like new releases, and like it gets it's a nasty space of like FOMO, and it's just expensive to produce now. So a bad hobby for folks with little disposable income.
Yeah, but maybe not as bad as Magic the Gathering.
That's true. I got out of that maybe a little bit more than you. Like, I don't play much anymore except with you.
Yeah, I haven't bought a card in years besides that pack.
Yeah. I mean, that was fun.
Yeah.
Memory lane, but also like, man, I could have had, however much I spent on Magic in high school, I could have had, maybe some things more meaningful, like another instrument or 2. But we enjoyed our time.
So, what is important?
What is important? Just like in life.
Yeah.
What is important? To me, friendship is very important. Family is very important. I feel like what I've learned from like living in different places and traveling a lot is that like it's all about the connections that you make and the people that you meet. That's what ends up like mattering the most, at least for me. And having deep interest is very, very important for me, at least. If I don't have something that I'm like actively pursuing or like learning, then life doesn't seem that interesting. So yeah, Yeah, it's a hard
what
question.
are some of those deep interests lately?
Right now, I'm doing a lot of guitar and singing, which is really fun. I feel like especially with guitar and singing, there's like no like ceiling, so you can just like keep getting better and better, which is really nice. Like there's like I'm still like very much a beginner at guitar, but like it's nice to know that like you can practice that for the rest of your life, you know, and you could still like not be at a certain level. Um, so that's really fun. And then usually like drawing, painting, and stuff. Those have been my like interests in the past, and I think it's the same thing with that. Like you can just like keep trying to like level up and practice every single day, and um, that's really fun. And if I don't have one of those things, like some like artistic like venture to try and pursue, it's like yeah, life doesn't seem as good. So I think those things are very important.
All right, so let's just dive into the first question. I'm Gabbage. What is important?
What is important? That is such a big question. Oh man. Well, there's a lot of things that are important. I mean, like it's important to the world, important to me. I guess just whatever. You leave it open for this reason. Well, let's see. I guess what's important to me is really considering what brings joy. Also thinking a lot now recently about how important health is. Yeah.
Yeah, as we get older, that health factor gets more important. But I hear it all goes downhill after 30.
I was joking with one of my friends. As soon as she turned 25, she like the next day went for a run, and she was complaining about everything, like her knees and her feet. I'm like, oh, that's what happens once you turn 25. Everything goes to shit. She looked so shocked.
So, Chuz, what is important?
I think integrity is important. Sometimes there are certain moments in life that have an outsized importance on the rest of your life or the world, and to be a good person in those moments, or to have whatever qualities are needed for those high leverage moments, is really valuable. There's so many different ways to think about this, but looking at it differently, globally, I think like having less war and more systems of resolving differences peacefully is really important.
Yeah, I just don't know how to do any of that, you know.
Yeah, it's super hard. I respect the people who work on that.